Welcome to On Fighting in Thailand, the best news and analysis covering the economics and infrastructure of Muay Thai. I'm Matt Lucas, journalist, commentator, and ex-Muay Thai fighter. Make stronger fighters, make stronger people. In this episode, I get to talk to Julie Kitchen, the queen of Muay Thai. Julie has been a long-term fighter out of Touch Gloves Gym in the UK. She went on to accomplish a lot in her storied career, which ran from about 2002 to 2012. Her post-fight career has also been very interesting because she successfully transitioned into a post-fight career. She commentates regularly for Infusion and is involved with the promotional and production side of the company. So she's a real asset to the sport and knows a lot and has done a lot for the sport. Without further ado, the interview with Julie Kitchen. So thank you, Julie, for coming on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking your time out. I know right now you're in Holland, you're busy on work. So I definitely appreciate you taking your time out.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So let's get right into things. Obviously, we're going to cover a little bit of your career and the history of UK Muay Thai. You began at Touchstone Gym just wanting to lose weight, correct?
Yeah, Touch Gloves, it's called.
Touch Gloves,
Gym.
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. At the time it was it has still now a family-run business. So I literally had just had my daughters, Amber and Leia, twin girls. Before that, I hadn't done any kickboxing whatsoever. But I'd put on a little bit of weight and I needed some time for myself. And so I went along, just started to train and fell in love with the sport instantly.
And what was happening at the time in terms of fights? And I know you sort of like fell into the fights a bit, correct?
Yeah, there was one young guy, he was called Sakor, and I watched him come through junior, go into the adults fighting, and I'd seen all the training he'd been putting in. He was a close friend as well. So I went along to the show to watch him fight, and I just fell in love with the atmosphere. And I don't know, it was really out of character because I was such a quiet personality and always looking to fade into the background, not like be noticed or anything. And something at that show just made me want to have a go at it. And yeah, it was very out of character. My parents didn't understand why, and my family, but you know, I just wanted to do it, challenge myself. And yeah, I went in for my first fight with a head guard and shin guards and for the injuries. And I performed well. I got a win and my journey started then.
In terms of time and what year was that?
I was 21 when I was pregnant. So I started roughly when I was 22. And so that was 22 years ago.
Yeah. So about 2000.
Yeah, around 2000, 2001. Yeah, the girls were born in 99.
Your pro career spanned from about 2002 to 2012?
Yeah, because in England, it's a little bit different. So you can kind of go straight into pro. My first fight was classed as amateur because of the head guard and shin guards. And then, yeah, like I knew I obviously made mistakes. So I went back to the gym, trained some more, went back into the ring, realized I had a lot more things to work on. At the time, I was relying on my boxing because I think I had in my head like my father and my grandfather were boxers. My grandfather was welterweight champion of Britain. And I think in my head, I assumed I was a boxer. So I used my boxing a lot. So then I had to go back and revise my kicks in the gym. Always wanted to better myself. So yeah, I had that kind of mentality.
And how often were you fighting to begin with?
It was whenever I could get a match, really. You know, we're talking quite a few years ago. It was a little bit harder to get females matched up. And also my location was a huge factor in it because we were so far away from any big cities. So I started fighting on the more local shows. We had a promoter, and he was a friend from a gym as well in Paynton Torquay, Howard Hughes and Karen Uzi. And I used to fight on their show in the beginning. But to try and get on the bigger major shows like in London, of course, it's always like, how many tickets can you sell? What's your following? Because that's how promoters work, isn't it? So it was always quite of a battle to try and get on the bigger shows, but I would fight whenever I could.
So what happened in your early career? I know, you had a few fights and then you came in late notice for a title fight at one point, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I previously fought Nikki Carter and Carla Hood, and they was going to match each other at the Wembley Stadium, and it was for Sky Sports. And also John Wayne Parr was fighting, and he was fighting Stephen Wakelin for the WBC title. Stephen's from England. So I had a weekend away, went up to watch them. On the day, I heard that Carla and Nikki Carter's fight was cancelled because Nikki couldn't make weight. I think she was over or something. So they really wanted a female fight for the Sky Sports. So I stepped in last minute. I said, I'll do it. I'd fought Carla before. I'd unfortunately lost. And so I can remember thinking at the time, this is going to be so easy to say, no, I'm not going to do it because I haven't prepared correctly or whatever. And it was just something inside me. And I thought, I'm just going to give it a go. I'm going to be the underdog. What have I got to lose? It's a great show. I'm on the same card as Stephen Wakelin and John Wayne Parr. Let's do it. So I had nothing with me. I can remember I had to borrow shorts, go and get a boil in the bag gum shield. And I jumped in and I beat her, and it was an amazing feeling. And also to be on Sky Sports quite early on in my career. So really that was a major turning part for me.
When was that? Do you remember?
That was 2006. Yeah, it was Wembley Fight Night in 2006. Yeah. The show was called Ashes to Ashes.
Why was that a major turning point, and sort of what was going on at the time in terms of female Muay Thai in the UK? Were there a lot of shows at the time?
I wouldn't say there's a lot of shows, but it was definitely, if anyone knows, there was always a battle on the internet. Like we had forums, and at the time, Nathan, who's my husband and my coach, he would always be known for arguing with people to try and get me onto the shows up country. So yeah, it's very hard. As I said, they would always say, how many tickets can you sell? What's you going to bring or whatever. And I felt when I showed my worth on this particular show in Wembley, people realised not only did I have the skill, I kind of had the following as well, because people was really interested in the fight. The commentators said great things about me as well. And then really from there, my career started to kick off. I started to get invites to fight further afield and abroad. And then I had a winning span, I think it's 21, 22 fights of win, 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 win. So people started to recognize me. They had heard from my story that I only started later in my life and after having twin girls. So this was a huge story as well, especially to inspire females, that you didn't have to start when you was young. And I was stepping into the ring for the first time at the age of 22, 23. And then as my career started to unfold and I was winning, getting one title, two titles, defending, it seemed unreal to me, let alone other people.
What was it like being, I guess, thrust into the spotlight to some degree, and being a role model for other people?
If for me at that time, my first job was being a mum. So, like Vinny Shawman, he's a very good friend of mine, and he's a mind coach. And I can remember him saying to me at the time, I had a very unique mind because of the way I deal with things. So really, as soon as I left the gym, I could cut off thinking about my training. I was at home and I was a mum, but I'd be dedicated to my training. Like my diet, my commitment to training, to go out running was like 200%. But I could really, really cut off my mindset.
So, what was it like having to be a role model and getting a lot of that media attention? Because you said I guess you can compartmentalize pretty well, but this is there's as you moved up in your career, there's more and more layers put on you.
Yeah, correct. And that's where I was going with that. Like, I didn't actually take it all in, to be honest. I used to do the interviews, and photo shoots and things. I really didn't take a second thought of it. My main aim was to just train. I can remember when my coach used to say, "Right, we got this title coming up." I didn't used to think about the title or where it would be. I just knew I had to go into training mode, and that's what I would do. I wouldn't overthink things. I wouldn't think too much about the media. And then in time, when I started to teach seminars, I started to be guest at events and doing displays and talking to people. Like, I can't tell you how really Muay Thai changed my life as a person, because, as I said before, I was so shy and quiet. And all of a sudden, I was the person the eyes were on. I was the person they was asking questions to, and I could answer them. So it definitely made me a lot more confident person.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you now your entire career is basically being in the spotlight to some degree. You're a commentator. You're doing a lot of on-air things. How does that feel now, and what sort of change do you think it's made besides just growing in confidence?
I just absolutely love my job. I love where my life has taken me. I dedicate myself to my work. And actually, looking back, where my head is now and the experience I've had, I've like watched so many fights, hundreds, and commentated them. My head is so much more knowledgeable and stronger than it was all those years back when I was fighting. And I wish I could put my mind it is today with my body back then. And I think I would have been amazing. No, but I just wish
Yeah.
I had I can't complain because I done amazing and I reached as far as I could at the time, being 14 times world champion. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you did have a very, very successful career, and you had a lot of significant wins. You fought Angie Parr. You took a WBC title. Can you talk a little bit about, say, your mid-career, sort of when you're on the way up, getting a lot of these belts? What were some of the most memorable bouts for you?
Yeah, I used to go up and down in weight because just to stay busy, basically. So I fought over 5 different weight categories. My lowest was 59 kilograms, and I went up to 67 kilograms. So I would fluctuate with my weight. Just basically, I always accepted fights. I wouldn't duck anyone. So I can remember early in my career, I fought Karen Lynch. She was from New Zealand. We actually fought each other twice, and I can remember fighting her in London in Muay Thai. And I can just remember coming out of that fight thinking, "Wow, I so enjoyed that." It was a real chess game with elbows. We was really getting involved. Like, that's one fight I really remember enjoying, and she had great technique as well. Higher up in the weight categories was Natalie Fuzz from USA. I fought her a few times, once in England, twice in USA. We fought 3 times, actually. She was a tough opponent. She was obviously coming down to 67, and I was standing on the scales a little bit lighter than that. But she was always, a challenge, being a little bit heavier. So I enjoyed that. Chantal Ugi was a name at the time. I fought her in the MBK Stadium in Bangkok. I took a win over her. Claire Haig was another tough opponent. I fought her actually on the King's birthday in Thailand, which was an amazing experience. Anyone who's ever attended the King's birthday, there's thousands and thousands of people there. That really, really stood in my mind and like an achievement, because not many females would fight on the King's birthday. So I was really privileged to be invited to fight there.
And during these time, were there a lot of female fights? What was going on in the UK in terms of Muay Thai?
Yeah, I mean, we had some strong girls like at the time, Nikki Carter. I fought her. She come and went. Bernice Aldis. Yeah, I fought also Cherie Halliday. She was another fighter from London doing very well. So it was more kind of local English shows. And then, and then I started to travel abroad and face the best females from the other countries. I remember I fought Kerry Ferrer at the time. She was married to Brendan Ferrer. That was a really nice match as well, because she had just been in a reality show, like In the House with Master Toddy and everyone. And that was a good win for me over her as well.
So, with these international matches, do you feel like the sport was growing in popularity, or was it still pretty niche?
I believe it was growing. It's a sport that I've seen over my time in the sport. Every year it's been growing. For the females, it was definitely harder for them to get on the shows because it was a very male driven sport. And I think over the time since I've started, over my 22, 23 years now, it's been a major breakthrough. Of course, you can see the females on the UFC, the respect, the purse money they get. It's just amazing to see. And I do feel that, I know it's happening long before me and there's other great names, but I do feel that I did open a pathway and had the advertising for the females. One, because of my story, how I started late. I inspired other females that they could start training after they had children. It's not your end of your life. You have to stay in and, be a mum. I used to get so many messages. And for me at the time, it was just so nice to hear from other females to say, you've inspired me. I've decided to go to the gym. What do you suggest? Like, for me, that was really worthwhile to know that I've inspired others.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you feel like there was a certain point where sort of female combat athletes really exploded? And why do you think that happened?
I wouldn't pinpoint it to like one show or 1 year, to be honest. It's been a gradual widening of the path for the females. It's just, yeah, I can't really pinpoint. And like at the time, I fought Jermaine Randami. Look at her now; she's in the UFC. She's doing amazing. Shevchenko as well, the female. She was on the same shows as me. So I think it's been a steady pace, and it's just the perseverance of the females, and also it's the shows giving females opportunities, such as the UFC, Infusion, who I work with. They always have female bouts. The Infusion Cage events, which I'm part of as well, we're always promoting. We started off having just a female section, so we'd put like 4 back-to-back female fights to start with, to just let the females have that chance to be on the big stage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then shifting a little back towards your career, can you talk a little bit about your later career and what that was like and how you felt about it?
My later career wasn't as strong as my midsection of my career. And my personal circumstances, I had some things going on in my family, so I wouldn't say that my mind was 100% there. So I had a couple of tough fights. One, I'd say Miriam Nakamoto, which I absolutely hate saying I lost, but I can say, and I remember people saying at the time, they could see it on my face, something just wasn't up. Even people who didn't know me, and they looked at photos and, something wasn't wrong with her. So I can't explain, if you're not a fighter, like your mindset is so much as well as your physical side. Like physically I would have been ready, but 100% mindset, I wasn't there. I don't know if I had the drive to win, and I was so close in winning that fight, and unfortunately I didn't take it.
Hmm. Um, and so that was in 2012 or so, uh, and you had one more bout after that.
Yes.
What was going on, I guess, in the UK at the time? So you were sort of training for these last couple bouts, and then you came over for them. Um, how was Touch Gloves doing? What was sort of going on?
Yeah, I mean, Touch Gloves in the small town where it was based was thriving, really thriving. A lot of people, as they do in the sport, they train just for fitness. They train. It's just an amazing community. If you can join a kickboxing or a Muay Thai gym, you become more than just a student. It becomes a family, and I've visited so many gyms across the world, and you feel that wherever you go. It's the amazing friendships that you bond students with their coaches. You're not just their coach, you can become their basically like social worker. You can hear all about their stories, especially if you're, with your fighters. You learn what's happening in their life, their personal life. You need to understand one another. So it's a very special bond between a coach and a fighter, or a coach and students. But the scene in UK, the gyms were thriving. Lots of students coming through, lots of new fighters popping up, male, female. Next generations coming through, looking stronger and stronger. So I would say the Muay Thai scene in England has always been thriving, more so than the kickboxing scene in England. I always see England as more Muay Thai.
Mm-mm. And before you mentioned that you'd done seminars and were traveling a bit, I assume when you were fighting, after the fight seminars, what did you experience in those seminars and what did you get to see?
Uh, Meeting people. I done a course of seminars in the USA, in San Diego. Just amazing people, meeting students, people really hungry to learn the sport, always asking questions, wanting to learn more, to hear about experiences. My personal experience, whenever I'd done seminars, I would always say it was 50-50 male students and female students. So it was always a nice mix. Sometimes I would do just like the junior side. So I really felt my passion was especially teaching females, and I really enjoyed teaching juniors because then the next generation as well. And of course, the males, I was always training, sparring with the guys, because I thought if I can deal with the guys, then when it comes to fighting females, hopefully it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah. And then, so after you retired from actively fighting, you quickly moved into other work in the sport, correct?
Yeah, well, part of my career, I was first invited to Infusion reality show where I was a coach, one of the female coaches. It was four of us. So I had a team of heavyweight male fighters. So I coached them. We done challenges together. I coached them on fight night. And the CEO, Edwin Van Os of Infusion, he liked how I was coaching people, how I came across on camera, and I was invited back the next time to host the next Infusion reality. So I went back as a host. So I had a whole new different role, which was really nice to be on the outside of it, because I could like understand it, ask some questions. It was just really, really nice. And then from there, they asked me to stay, and I became part of the Infusion team, helping to organize the shows, a lot of the background stuff. And then I started to commentate alongside Vinny Shawman, which I've learned a lot from and had amazing shows sat next to him. He's very knowledgeable, very funny. And now I think commentating is one of my favorite parts of the job.
Hmm. And just in terms of a timeline, when did you first do that reality TV show where you were coaching?
I think it must have been 2011. think it was
Mm-hmm.
2010, 2011.
And was that out here in Thailand in Koh Samui?
Yeah, that's right. It was at Super Pro in Koh Samui.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they've had a run of infusion reality shows out of Super Pro, correct?
Yes. Yeah. We've done many now. So
Mhm.
I think our last one was number 6. Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And we've got a documentary scheduled for the end of this year. So it's a little bit different. It's not so much reality, but it's more a documentary on the fighters and background.
Mm. And what has it been like shifting into, I guess, two questions, is shifting into more of the production side of things. And then later I want to talk about the commentary.
Yeah, I find myself very blessed that I can still be in the sport because there's so many of us that are fighters and whatever. And when your career comes to an end for whatever reason, many goes off in different paths, whereas my path has stayed on the sport and even got even stronger. And for me to I fell into this position as such. And yeah, I'm very much to do with the behind the scenes organizing. And it's like anything, you can start somewhere at the beginning and you learn step by step, and each section, it's like learning how to fight. You can't just go and fight. You have to learn how to block. You have to learn how to attack, your footwork. So it's learning all the little different areas. And I love to learn and I love to improve myself and become more knowledgeable. And I like a clear understanding. So every step of the way. So now I can understand a little bit on the background of the organization of the show, of how the production side works. And I just find it all fascinating.
As always, if you'd like to follow me, you can do so on Instagram, Matt Lucas Muay Thai. I always respond to messages there. I also have the website, matt-lucas.com, or email me at a.matt.lucas@gmail.com. Thanks to all the people that have supported me so far, sharing the podcast, leaving reviews. If you'd like to leave a review, that would be super helpful. You can do so on the iTunes stores. After years of hard work, studying, and being in the game, I published On Fighting in Thailand, a guide to the sport in the motherland. Is a Muay Thai encyclopedia. Goes over scoring, matchmaking, picking gym, fight styles, gambling, Muay Thai culture, and more. It contains a series of interviews with long-term expat fighters, including Michael Savas, Willie Whipple, Lisa Brealey, Angela Chang, and others. It is a great guide, educates, and helps guide careers by helping save fighters from costly mistakes. It is a definitive guide and is available on Amazon as an ebook and in print. So go check it out. On Fighting in Thailand, a guide to the sport in the motherlands. Yeah, I'm sure it's difficult and complicated and takes a fair amount of time to learn as well. Um, why do you think that you fell into it? Why do you think the CEO of Infusion liked the way you came across, or what do you think you presented?
I think the way that I presented myself as an overall person, my attitude, I was very humble. I didn't, as I was saying, I worked my way through the ranks and I became 40 times world champion. Even to say that always became unreal. When I was talking about myself, it just didn't seem real, although I had achieved it. And as I said, it doesn't matter, even whatever I've done in my life, whether it was my work before fighting or the fighting or now, I always put on my fight training 200% into it. So I always think if you're going to do something, it's no point doing it half-hearted. You have to go 100%. And that is my attitude in anything I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. And you've been working with Infusion for quite some time now, almost 8-9 years, correct?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Correct.
And
Yeah.
how has Infusion grown the sport in the UK and in the world?
Well, they've held many shows. weekend we actually done our 101 show. So to reach the 100 mark was
That's a
amazing.
lot. Yeah.
And yeah, they're holding shows all in different countries. And another massive step was for me is that I started to promote the shows in Abu Dhabi. So I'm now on my, I think it's the 5th or 6th show we're hoping to have in November the 12th. And that was like another stepping stone for me, is promoting. So obviously I've done smaller shows in the past, but when you're dealing with a big production, there's so much more to think about. And also being in Abu Dhabi, we have a great sponsor, Al Shira Stables, couldn't do it without them. But it's a lot more to think about. You have to fly all the opponents in, obviously, the background things like visas, hotels. It was a lot much more on my plate. But again, I'd say at the beginning it was very hard because it was a learning curve, but I just loved it. And I can remember looking at the event thinking, wow, we've created this. This is amazing. And I felt kind of proud, especially after the event had finished, when all the stress had gone, to look back and think, wow, it's another great achievement.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's always impressive pulling off any events, especially in a foreign country. Do you feel like your background in commentating for Infusion helped you with matchmaking and other promotional aspects of the show?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. It's good to understand every section within the sport because it gives you an overall view, doesn't it? And being a promoter, I could remember back when I was fighting and I would do little touches, just making sure that there was food in the changing rooms, like
Mm.
good fueling food, just small touches. I would think if I was a fighter, I would appreciate that. So I would think from the
Mm.
fighter side and the promoter side.
Yeah. So going into the commentary, how you said that after that first season where you were coaching the reality show, you started
Yes.
commentating. What was that like? And you're still commentating as well, correct?
Yes, I am. Yes, I do all the shows. Well, I originally went back, I started hosting the show, and then because the reality show started before actual infusion show started. The first one was 2012 in Belgium. So I was invited for the first time to commentate there. It was alongside Finney Shawman and Kieran Keddle at the time. So it was three of us. And yeah, since then I've only missed a few shows because of my work in Abu Dhabi, which I haven't been able to attend. But yeah, otherwise I'm like a resident commentator for them.
What do you like about commentating, and how would you characterize yourself as a commentator?
What I love about it is really, for me, the next best thing to fighting. So when you first retire, for me, it was extremely hard. I kept having the feeling I wanted to go back in the ring and compete. But I'm sat ringside next to the ring, you can smell the tire oil on the fighters. You can smell the atmosphere, the adrenaline, and you're right next to the action. So I can't get in the ring anymore, but I've got the next best thing. I understand how the fighters think. You can tell by their reactions in the ring or their movement. So my past experience has definitely given me a huge experience start in the commentating. Obviously, took a while for me to get confident in talking and using it in a different way. But I think during commentary, that is something I can give to the people. So my past experience, my thoughts on what a fighter should be doing or what they shouldn't be doing, and the overall view of the sport.
Yeah. And you've obviously commentated on quite a number of shows. I would assume like 60 or more.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've just reached 100 on Infusion. So we've done 100 Infusion, their live shows. Apart from that, we have Infusion talent shows. So Infusion's like really for the more experienced top fighters
Mhm.
where we have the belts for. Then we have Infusion talents. They're the upcoming talents. So we've had 84 of those
Oh,
shows.
wow.
And then we have rookie shows underneath. So this is the stepping stone for the beginners to go onto a platform. And we've had hundreds, thousands of those fights.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done a lot. And now we have infusion cage events.
Mhm.
So this is something new for me because we do have MMA included in this.
Mhm.
So I'm the stand-up expert commentator for ECE, and then we always have a special guest on who specialized in MMA as well.
I mean, with that many shows, are you commentating almost every weekend?
Well, I mean, it's been a process. So it's been since 2012.
Right.
There's been some years where we've had a lot of shows. Sometimes they can be back to back. So because we've just had the break of the COVID, this is our third weekend of a show. So it's been continuous shows week by week, which is a lot of work. And it's our youngest promoter, Michael Vanos. He's organizing it. And normally you turn up to a show and you have no second thoughts, but there's a lot of arrangements that need doing. And to have them back to back per week, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of travel, a lot of work. Since you've started commentating, what have you seen in terms of the growth of the fighters? Have they changed that much in terms of style or demographics?
Well, I would say they're getting hungrier, they're getting more skillful. Every time you see a new generation come in, they kind of blow you away. Infusion's had a real mixture. So we've had like the old star names such as Andy Sauer before. There's been many past names that have come up, and then they fight the new upcoming generations like Typhoon Oscar, and he's been an amazing success through Infusion. He's still under Infusion management, but now he's gone to One Championship. And lots of names coming up. I just get blown away from them. Like last weekend, there's names. We had a 4-man tournament where the winner secures their place in the ECE documentary later in the year. And it's this one guy, Brandon Foss. I hadn't seen him before. I'd done some research. And he just blew me away. He ended up winning. His determination to win the fight. He just fought his heart out, and every time we have a show, it just blows my mind how much dedication these up-and-coming fighters have.
And obviously, you've worked with Vinny Shorman for a long time as well. What have you learned from working with him, and what sort of things has he taught you?
Yeah, well, Vinny's a personal friend as well. And I first met him at the first ever Infusion reality I was on. At the time, I thought he was a very funny guy indeed. And actually, he had been to our gym previously for a mind coaching seminar. And that's where I first met him and started to speak to him. So we had that connection. And then during the Infusion events, and then I knew I was going to commentate alongside him, we started to see each other more often, obviously before and after the shows. And sitting next to him and talking to him, I learned so much. Vinny used to commentate for Showtime, so before Infusion. So that was a major brand. They had massive shows with thousands and thousands, one time in Amsterdam Arena with a crazy amount of spectators. And Vinny, he was a pro at it. So to sit next to him and learn each show, I've probably got some of his traits in me now. And I'm proud to say that I've sat next to him and will do in the future commentating.
And then, of course, you also have Amber, one of your 2 daughters, fighting regularly. What has that been like, and what has her career been like?
Well, both my daughters, when they was younger, they both used to compete at junior level. Because I started my career so early on when they was young, they grew up in the gym. We used to take them in the evenings. They would run around as they get older, start to do their homework in the gym. And it became basically their second home. They got on well with all the students. It was a really nice family atmosphere. And then they started to train in the children's classes. And then they'd start practicing when I would go in to do my separate training. So at a young age, they was quite talented. They started to compete in junior competitions, both of them, which they done really well. And I think it was Amber reached world champion, Alea European champion. And that's with body armor. So in England, they would do no head contact body armor. And then as they reached their teenage ages, they had a little bit of time off. And then Amber came back, or they both came back to training, but Amber wanted to carry on her fight career. So she done some fights locally. Amber fought on Infusion a few times and then signed up to one championship. So unfortunately, with COVID, she's only had one fight. She had 2 matches, one against Supergirl from Fairtex and Jackie Bunton, and these both postponed because of COVID. So, and it's been some time now, so she's been out of the ring for quite some time. So I don't know when she'll be back in.
Yeah, but she's still relatively young as well. She's 22 or so.
Yeah, she's 22,
Which is
yeah.
basically when you started your career.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean,
she's achieved so much already.
Yeah. What is that like? How do you feel about that?
My first thing is I'm extremely proud of her, or I'm proud of both my daughters. But you know what it takes, and to be at 22 and she's achieved so much already. I think she's got a very, very bright future, and it's hard. She's just started training with Bad Company in Leeds, where Liam Harrison is from. Richard Smith is the head coach, and it's quite far. It's like a 7-hour drive from Amber's home. But Amber's the manager of Touch Gloves Gym, so when I was fight training, I was teaching as well and managing the gym, and she hasn't got so many people at a higher level to spar with. She's got sparring partners, but if she wants to go to that next level, she needs to be surrounded with people like-minded on the same journey as her. And she visited Bad Company, and she just fell in love with it up there. They're a great team. They're a friendly team. They train super hard. And Amber was looking really good for her last fight. And Liam Harrison, they was both on the same show, so they was due to travel together. And unfortunately, the show didn't go ahead because of COVID. But I'm very excited for when Amber can get back in the ring and, carry on her training up there with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one of the things you pointed out earlier was how it was difficult for you at the time to find sparring partners or even to, find opponents and having to travel. I mean, now it's 7 hours, but before, more in the main time of your career, I assume it was even further.
Yeah, definitely it was. Yeah, I done some trips out to America for my training as well. But it's to have a strong team around you and the right people is a massive thing. And Amber sometimes thinks about maybe moving away, but she's got to weigh things up. And at the moment, she's not very busy with her fighting. So yeah, she has to weigh things up how it should be.
Yeah, it's always pros and cons of everything. And right now, the world is all up in the mix.
That's right. Yeah, and she's doing a great job of running Touch Gloves Gym. It's thriving. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she's putting her time into that as well as keeping ticking over with her training.
Yeah. So just sort of an overview or a few more questions. How do you think the sport in Muay Thai has grown since, you started and now you have a successful post-fight career? What sort of big changes do you think there's been?
It's definitely wider accessible. So you have the big show. Obviously, UFC is massive. That's more MMA. One championship over the years has grown. It's huge. A lot of people follow and look at that. We have obviously Infusion, where we're giving fighters massive opportunities. So I think on the biggest stage of things, there is more openings for the fighters. But at the same time, there's more and more fighters coming through the system and people wanting to reach the top. So that's where it's important where the smaller shows keep going and giving people opportunities. And I mean, Muay Thai and kickboxing, it's a never-ending growing sport, but there's still many people out in the world who we can reach, I believe. Like there's still a huge section of people that haven't had a taster of it yet. And I hope the sport can keep evolving and growing. And I hope we can keep inspiring the younger generations to stay with it and enjoy this beautiful sport.
Mm-hmm. And then you have a post-fight career, which is, like you said before, is a little unusual, or not as many people end up being able to walk down that path. Do you see the post-fight career options growing? And what is it like to have a career in the sport still that is not, solely, running a gym?
Yeah, I find myself in a very unique situation. I do teaching in Abu Dhabi. I promote my shows in Abu Dhabi, so I'm based there a lot with amazing people. I'm in one of the biggest kickboxing organizations. I'm a stockholder in the ECE side, the Infusion Cage event side. We have lots going on, which will involve soon as well. So yeah, I find myself very, very lucky, as well as it's not always about luck, it's the work you put in as well to be within the sport and having the opportunities that I have. And it gives me travel, it gives me meeting new people, it gives me, yeah, so many things I can't even explain. Yeah.
Obviously it is a combination of luck and work, but you obviously have worked hard. What sort of work do you think you've put in specifically to get to this point?
I mean, I'm sure every fighter does the same. They put in 100%, but sometimes you just need a little bit of extra. So you can put in 100% of your training. It's just not going home at the end of the day. Like I said, I started my career and shutting the door on it. You have to keep working. You have to keep researching. You have to have a bigger vision of what you want or a different paths you can take as well. Like I say, I'm very, very fortunate. I have an amazing contact in Abu Dhabi. I work for a company who also runs, it's called Al Shira Stables, and they're a very professional company that deals with horses, so horse jumping, horse racing. And so I'm around like-minded vision people who want to expand and achieve the best. And I think you always see it in quotes, but if you surround yourself in like-minded people with a vision to do well, it will help you on your way.
Mhm. Well, wrapping things up, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to touch on?
No, I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I wish everyone who's in the sport good luck and the best that they can do, and to the younger generation, stay at it. Dreams do come true. If you have a vision, go for it. And yeah, I think that's it.
Great. And where can people follow you if they are interested in doing so?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Julie Kitchen, and Facebook, Julie Kitchen UK.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate you taking your time out.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So that was a great interview with Kitchen. I really appreciated her taking her time out. She's obviously very busy. The number of shows that Infusion is doing is quite a lot. And even now she's doing shows in Abu Dhabi. And when I talked to her the other day, she was in Holland. Also, moving back and forth in the UK. So definitely a very, very busy and successful lady. So definitely appreciate her and her time out. She's also accomplished a lot in her career, taking a lot of the opportunities that came her way, and it's obviously paid off. She, like we talked about in the episode, she has a successful post-fight career that is in the sport, which doesn't really happen to a lot of people, but is happening more and more. And we need to figure out how we can offer those opportunities to more people and how we can create more opportunities for people to develop post-fight. This, I think, will lead to, just greater growth in the sport as people that have participated in the sport are able to continue to grow the infrastructure. Julie said, she's been in the ring, so she knows to an extent how the fighters are feeling, which makes her a better commentator. It also potentially makes her a better show producer and organizer. So definitely really appreciate the talk. As always, you can follow me on Instagram. I have recently started doing a new bi-weekly newsletter. It's an email newsletter. You can DM me on Instagram or contact me via email a.matt.lucas@gmail.com to get on that. Right now I'm keeping it relatively small, just getting the wheels going with it. Thank you so much.
This show was edited by Effie Ceruti. You can find me on Instagram at Effie_FC or on Facebook at Effie Ceruti.